I think what we saw was the convergence of a lot of really interesting meta trends, like online video, online gaming, the very early onset of social media and influencers, and all of those things kind of trended together. And at the time, for us, Sundance Di Giovanni, the other co-founder, and I, it was kind of a mix of playing a lot of games against each other and going to Yankees games all summer. And those two things together combined into what eventually became MLG and Esports. I think the interesting thing about Esports is it really grew out of gaming going online and becoming a social thing. And I think that's still a thing that people probably over 30, 35 don't understand, because people like me, grew up with gaming as a solitary thing where it was sort of you against the game. And the reality is gaming is now a completely social, and in the case of esports, competitive endeavor. It's something that you do with friends and against friends. And just like playing basketball or football in your backyard, it's playing competitively against your friends, whether that means they're sitting next to you or they're online half a world away. That's what esports is. So it connects the world through competition and a social environment. So first, Activision Blizzard is the largest video game developer and publisher in the world. We have a huge slate of major franchises, most notably and currently Overwatch, which is actually a game built primarily for PC gaming, but on console as well, but is really built for competition in esports. So it's built from the ground up to be an esport game. Another game, Call of Duty, the biggest, most successful video game, I think, in the history of the industry, has its own storyline and kind of solitary sort of narrative component. But more and more over the past few years, the multiplayer competitive part of Call of Duty has become more important. So those two games have now resulted in the Overwatch League and the Call of Duty World League, which are the two kind of key franchises for us going forward with esports. Two things about esports and the traditional ad agency, I think, is one is it's very difficult to understand the world of esports. It's a hyper-passionate world. It's got what seems like a very insular culture and a difficult to understand culture. The reality is it's not that hard to unpack once you kind of get into it. So what we're trying to do with the MLG division of Activision Blizzard is kind of be the Sherpa, the guide, to bring Madison Avenue into the world of esports on a global scale. The second thing that I would say, what I've always thought for 15 years now is really interesting and important about esports, is that the consumer of esports is very much a model for the future mainstream consumer of media and brands. 15 years ago when we started, it was before YouTube or Twitch or anything like that existed. We saw very early on that OTT and video streaming was going to be the main distribution platform for this new sport. We saw that gaming was going to become a social, not a solitary pastime. We saw that competition was going to fuel things. We saw that influencers were more important, kind of like accessible influencers were more important to consumers in making brand decisions than celebrities and just general marketing messages. And all of those things are coming true now in the mainstream world. And so I think that studying and really getting to know the esports consumer today is a look into the future of mainstream consumers 10 years from now still.